Hello and welcome back to the next One Piece review and discussion. We are moving right along in these flashback chapters and we are getting a huge one now. This doesn't just have information we have been waiting about regarding God Valley, but we get more information about a certain pirate that we have been following all of this time, and the reveal is huge. Like, this is really shaking things up and really painting a big picture of what is to come when we go back to present day, because I'm still under the impression that Loki is still explaining all of this to Hiruden and Luffy. So it's certainly going to be interesting to see what happens and what changes when we go back to present day Elbaf. But nevertheless, we need to talk about this chapter first because it is beautiful. Without further ado, chapter 1159, The Island of Destiny. We have a beautiful return journey cover story of Yamato's pilgrimage, and it is obviously, we had the big reveal from the previous chapter of Gecko Moria being from the Kozuki clan, which was huge. Now we had just seen they're heading back towards the flower capital, Ulti, Page 1 and Yamato, which is really nice to see. But last we had left off, we had obviously the huge dynamic surrounding Shaki being on Pirate Island, Shaki's rip-off bar. Roger seemed almost very gloomy for some reason, and it turned out that Rayleigh had been personally given Shaki's Vivra card with a message saying, like, come and get me. And Roger was just like, how have you not already done this? Like, he was just besmitten with Shaki like everyone else is, but he was more upset with Rayleigh for not acting upon it and stuff. So they decide to go and visit Pirate Island and visit Shaki and save her as the treasure or jewel of the sea that she is. So we get a lovely confrontation between Rox and Roger, the clash that we've been waiting for. And we get more information that at this point now in the story, Rox has met someone. His eye no longer sparkles for Shaki, and she notices that. And that woman intuition, he's found somebody else. So that whole storyline of now, obviously we know Teach is Rox's kid. So obviously we know that this woman he's met is going to be Blackbeard's mother. But we don't see them this chapter. What we do see is Rox deciding to have a massive hacky-fueled scrap in the realm of the dead with Harold. These two, it's hard to call them friends. Rox certainly sees it as a close friendship. Harold is back and forward on it, but deep down I think he does care. They have gone through so much, but Harold was tasked with having to kill Rox in order for Elbaf to become an affiliated country. And they battled, and Rox just couldn't get his head around how he was becoming a government lapdog. And, his only friend, or someone who he thought was a dear friend, he was like, I can't believe you're going through with this. And they parted ways. They both survived the fight. No real conclusion was drawn. But a fateful encounter was to befall later on. And a big part of last chapter was Figurlin Garland himself returning to the Five Elders, saying, the next time we do our celestial hunt game, we have to do it at God Valley. And they were raising eyebrows and questioning why, and he was like, not only did he spend some time there himself and become accustomed, he initially tried to get them to become a government country, but they just weren't having it. He said he had found something particularly interesting, something even the Great One that Eam would be very pleased about, and they had to host it at God Valley in 2 years. We jump over to God Valley and we see that a red-haired woman had given birth to twins. Yes, Shanks and Shamrock were born on God Valley. So we pick up 39 years ago over on Pirate Island, and there is a blistering, like, gale force wind storm, and it is a very somber atmosphere on the island because Don Marlowe has been killed along with many others, and no one's quite sure why, who's done it, what's happened, but the only big indicator of why it was done was because somebody has kidnapped Shaki. The Jewel of the Sea herself was no longer safe on Pirate Island, and the perpetrator had a few hours to deal with what they wanted, which was to take Shaki, and we don't necessarily at this stage know why, but we can see a very happy Wang Ji. So there was no trace of Shaki where she went, like who done it, but we can see he's the only one very happy counting cash, and everyone else is in floods of tears that Shaki's gone. Like Gloriosa is in bits, and Roger, Rayleigh, you know, they're all absolutely tearing newspapers apart with the news that, you know, Rox has let this happen, you know, Shaki's been kidnapped, and it really left a big hole in the ocean with people like, you know, pirates, the whole state of affairs. Like, it brought things to a halt because it was such devastating news. And Garling has returned, and this woman is ecstatic to see this man, the father of their twins, and he's like, what are the chances? Twins, how precious there are, kids. And she's like kind of coercing him to you know, stay on the island, you know, why don't we be together? And he's like, oh no, it's all right, this island is going to be no more soon, and you know, I don't really want to be sticking around. Besides, I have found another worthy bride for myself, one placed much higher, and when I prevail and triumph in this tournament, you know, she will be mine. And this woman's so confused. She's like, what are you? And then even before she gets the rest of her sentence out, Garland just stabs her. Just literally, Shanks and Shamrock are right there in the stroller, and he just stabs straight through her heart. Poor woman. We never get to see what she looks like. She's always cast either from behind or in shadow. She's being shrouded in mystery. And we can see that Marines are coming onto the island to corral all of the citizens. They have tranquilizer rounds. They've been told that anyone who steps out of line, you know, we use this and capture them, but we are to sort of get everyone out of the way. And it is at this stage, this very young looking Marine talks to the lieutenant commander and is like, what is the goal here? Like, these are just civilians, like, what are we trying to do? And he's like, look, it's a training exercise, nothing you have to worry about. We've got years of experience, we do this all the time, like, you're still a rookie. And someone's like, is everything all right? And he's like, oh no, don't worry about it, like, this upstart is just like asking a few too many questions, but he's never done this before, so no excuse, we deal with it. And we can see one guy stepped out of line and gets hit with a tranquilizer round, and he's like, this isn't right. Like, he's arguing with his superiors about what they're doing, and we get a glimpse of this person before it is revealed, obviously, that we see a very young Monkey D. Dragon when he was but a Marine. And I've already seen the comparisons online. He really does look like Luffy when he's in his Snake Man form. Like, it is uncanny, you know, obviously him being his dad, but the resemblance of Dragon here and Snake Man Luffy is very, very apparent. And he's going over the sort of morality of, you know, the just tranquilizer rounds, they shouldn't really hurt or kill someone. Like, we've just got to do this, and I'm being given orders. And he shoots a guy, and it doesn't quite sit right with him, and then he sees loads of like smoke bombs being set off in the distance, and the transponder is that everyone needs to put their masks on because sleeping gas has been deployed on the island. So they're really sort of coming in and like blitzkrieg style just taking over and dominating the island to set up for these games. The world governments aren't joking around here. But we see something we have seen before, which is very nice to see in this side of perspectives. We go over to the transport ship from the prison ship, so the slaves that are coming as part of the game for the Celestial Dragons. And we see Ginny, we see Ivankov, and we see that they are just about getting the news out that they have found. So Ginny's done her job. She's transmitted out into the world everything that they could find to inform what was going on. And people are like, why are they being so risky? What are they doing? And Ivankov is like, what are you on about, you moron? Like, knowledge is the key here. Like, it's worthless if we die with it. Like, we want to be saved, so we really want to try and get. And we see a young Kuma, just sat like thinking, oh, those two, like, really high in spirit. So even before we see that we thought was their initial meeting, he actually had seen them prior on the ship, which is really nice. But over at the Cypherpole agency, we see a very young Morgans sort of making deals with these Cypherpole agents, being like, oh, gentlemen, I hear, this information that's going around, this transmission, I think you should take rather seriously. And they're like, pay no mind, it's just absurd intel. And he's like, well, are you really keeping your story under wraps? Like, that's not going to stop me. Like, I'm going to purvey the truth, and I'm going to make sure that people know. And it is immediately that everyone finds out that Shaki's alive all of a sudden. And it's like, what is going on? Like, she's at God Valley for some reason. And it's starting to piece, and Wang Xi's kind of like got that really scrunched up face that's very iconic in One Piece, and he's like, oh, I don't know if we can like trust any of this information. And the whole of Rox's crew is like, Shaki, we're going for it, we're going to save her. Newgate and Big Mom and Kaido are like looking at the rest of the report like a celestial dragon hunt with a bunch of rare devil fruit as prizes. And she looks at Kaido and is like, didn't you want a really good devil fruit? And he's like, oh, this could be good. And she's even thinking like, these could be perfect for my kids. So we see they're all kind of getting ready, and they're like saying, if it's a trap, and Rock is like, doesn't matter, we are heading to God Valley. Like, instantly, like this, there is no hesitation in Rock's here that we're going straight there. And we see, obviously, Roger hears the news. They are like, everyone's meant to be right. Everyone is like, of course we are. Garp hears like, oh, this is serious. Like, Roger's heading there. We've got to go as well. So everyone is mobilising towards God Valley now because of what was leaked. And Rox's journey takes a bit of a hiccup when he comes across Harold's ship. Like, of all the ships he could have crossed heading to God Valley, Harold's ship is there. And they're talking, and Harold's like, look, it's not going to cut it. Like, all these excuses, the crew, we're here to intercept you, of course. But that vessel over in the distance is a government surveillance ship. Like, even if we try to do something, it's not going to work. And he's like, still in favour, still trying to get your country, still the lapdog as ever, Harold, Is this really how it's going to be? And he says, you know what? Why don't we talk? So just like Shanks and Newgate did, where they poured into a massive beaker that drink and they were sat drinking, both crews are like, what is going on? Like, why are those two just talking to each other? Like, this is so weird. And Rox is so honest with Harold. It's like he only could trust Harold with this. And he's saying, look, this is for you only. but I've got a family. Not even my crew know this fact. And as a part of that, you need to understand that Rox isn't my given name. And he's like, what? Rox says that his real name is Davy D. Zebek. Rox is a Davy. The Davy Jones fights that we have seen, no wonder he was so proficient at them. He is an ancestor of Davy Jones himself, the most probably feared or notorious pirate that we could ever know. And he is a descendant of this individual. And he says, look, there's a reason I hid my name. The world government have been trying to erase my lineage for God knows how long. So, you know, the legendary pirate Davy D. Jones, of course, it is a feared bloodline that the world government were trying to snuff out. You know, it still holds some influence in the underworld, but it's getting very few and far between now because it was so long ago. But he's like, look, regardless of whatever, I've got a kid now. You know, 2 years ago, he's still young. But to keep them safe, I sent them to where my family's from. And that was God Valley. And Harold is like, holy shit, wait a minute. So where the world government are currently setting up this game, Rox was from there. Not only was Rox from there, but the Davy clan has a origin linked to God Valley. And they're discussing with each other like, this is really sort of your weak spot now, isn't it? Like, this is where, like, is the government just staging this, you know, just to lure you here then, if they know? And he's like, no, there's not a chance that, you know, they would make that mistake. They are trying to auction off Shaki. So, honestly, it feels like destiny, but they just made a mistake. But to me, you know, this is all that matters, you know. Shaki is the reason everyone's going. I'm actually going to save my wife and child, you know. But luck isn't on my side this time round, Harold. And that is crazy for Rox to say. Like, Rox has been and done so much, and at this stage he knows he might not cut it. He just has an instinct about him. And we can see Harold is like so twisted and torn with this. And we can see that a fight breaks out, but not a fight in the sense of a proper one that we've seen them have. We see that they have a small bickering and Harold lets Rox escape. The fight was just merely a cover because the world government was watching. And we see that, you know, 3 years, why would the government choose this island of like quite rich resource? Like, it is a complete hunting ground. Like, there was no precedent as to why. And we go back and we see that familiar setting of the treasure chests of all the rewards. The devil fruits are all there, ready for whoever wins, you know, the point scoring system they've got. And I can't quite put into words how this double page spread plays out now. We see a sort of Kuja dressed Shaki being offered as the grand prize in this game. And she's very stoic, she's not moving, there's no like complexion or like emotion. This is just horrible what she's having to go through and witness. We can see some of the Holy Knights, more than just Garland, are present here, ready to make Shaki their bride. We see Summer, we see a younger Gunko, and we see that familiar sort of hat-wearing Holy Knight that we've seen a few times now. We don't know their name, but they're like sticking out their tongue, they've got the hat. They seem pretty big with making sure this is involved, you know. talking about the clan war trophy, as it may be. And while this is happening, Dragon stumbles upon a woman. He followed a blood trail and found a young woman bleeding out in a house somewhere. And all she can splutter out is that, please, can you save my children from him? Don't let him take them from me. You've got to get them off this island. Dragon is the one who saves Shanks from Garland. Like, that is crazy already, the setup. Like, how Dragon's going to pull this off while the hunt is happening is a whole other perspective that we didn't get to see yet. We saw what Kuma, Ivankov and Ginny got up to when, you know, they got to the Devil Fruit and Big Mom appeared and that whole happened. Obviously, we know Saturn is around somewhere, but there's a whole other dynamic to the island now of what is happening here with Shaki, with Dragon. We even see a young Teach chained up as a slave, as a prisoner, and what we assume is his mother saying, it'll be alright, you've got to survive this, Teach, you have to do this. And bless him, like, no wonder this dude has turned out the way he did. And it, like, the parallels of all these major players now, like, you know, Kuma was a prisoner and a slave, but he got brought up in the right upbringing to become the guy he became. Whereas Teach here starts in the same place, but is going to go a completely different path and becomes the devastating Yonko who wants to take over the world and completely destroy it. Like, this is a crazy setup for next chapter, and it doesn't end there, because the final panel is the announcement that didn't get made in Kuma's backstory but gets made here, that indeed there is a select few individuals, those rare rabbits that are around on this island, that we have some of the Buccaneer clan. We know Kuma is here, but beyond that, for the first time in 800 years, we have found members of the Davy clan. And that's where the chapter ends. The Rare Rabbits was set up way back during Kuma's story, and the Davy clan is the other rare rabbit that they were discussing. So I can't wait to see the chaos that is about to unfold. Rayleigh definitely steps up here to save Shaki. Teach somehow gets out of this crazy mess. You know, you got Big Mom and Kaido around. Rocks, Roger, you know, what are they going to do against, you know, the likes of Garland and the other Holy Knights? Poor young Dragon in this situation has to try and make it off the island with what she's asking is twins, but we know for a fact it's only going to be Shanks, or if not, he trusts Roger in some capacity. Mind blown with this absolute setup, and there is no break next week, so I cannot wait to see what we get from it. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Let me know what you thought of this chapter, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.